Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. A lot of people, when they decide to give woodturning a go, think in terms of just getting a cheap set of tools, cheap lathe, and away you go, just so they can experience the craft without investing too much money. But that's not actually such a good idea, because you never get a chance to experience even the hint of what the craft can offer. So in this video, there's just a few pointers as to what to look for when you're buying your first tools, and more important, what to avoid. So if a manufacturer is proud of what they're making, they'll have put their name on the tool. And then if you find the tools good, you'll know where to go to buy another one. So these are two above here. They're tools made pre-World War II, excellent steel, cast steel, or actually the gouge probably forged, but well worth buying if you happen to come across those. The more modern tools here are high-speed steel, and they generally have an HSS on them, HSS there, HS22 there, which is the steel, and on this little Sorby one down here, again they've got it spelled out in full in case you're not sure what HSS stands for. Now if you're lucky, you'll find a blue box like this containing a set of old Marples chisels. These are probably from the early 1970s. The measurements on them are still in imperial, as Britain's been metric since about 1973. And these have hardly been used, and they're for sale through my local woodcraft club for just $40, which is a real bargain for somebody. In fact, I'm tempted to buy them myself. They've got the name on them, as you can see, and these, in this case, they even tell you what the tools are. But this is basically a set for centre work. You could make a few shallow dishes and so on out of it, but you've got a skew chisel, parting tool, a couple of shallow gouges, a detail gouge, a little skew chisel, and a pointy tool which appears in a lot of kits, which I don't think anybody knows what to do with. So the first thing I would do with that is turn it into a square end scraper, and I would round the nose over of this one. But that would be a really good starter set. Well worth avoiding is a set of tools like this. Now these might well have been copied from the box set you've just seen of Marples, only these don't have a name on. The steel really has some kind of, it doesn't look very well machined. No sign of a manufacturer. And if they had put their name on them, that would have just given everybody a name to avoid in future. The handles might be of some use on other tools, but generally a set like this, even for $10, I think is worth avoiding. And even more worth avoiding if across the blade you have a great big HSS, which purportedly stands for high-speed steel, but not on a tool like this. This is a tool I bought recently for $20. It's hasn't had too much use. It's got a bit of an odd grind. I'm not sure if the person was trying to make a negative rake scraper or a skew chisel or what. I was intending to turn it into a shear scraper, but I might use it for something else. But for the moment, that's just going into my stock. It's a very nice Henry Taylor Diamic tool, and I'll return the handle to fit my hand, and that'll be that. These two were, this actually belonged to my father. He bought it in the 1930s, and it's part of a set which I do still use occasionally. It's a 1-inch spindle gouge, but I've used it to turn bowls, and there's a video on turning bowls using these kinds of gouges. This is a beautiful skew chisel. It's tapered in that direction. It's definitely pre-World War II, might even be pre-World War One. I can't find the manufacturer's name anywhere, but I expect I'll get it eventually. In contrast to these tools, which are the cheap ones worth avoiding, they just have a totally different look to them, slightly kind of grey. The round nose scraper is very thin. I can almost bend it, so that is not a good thing when you're turning. You want tools that are fairly stiff, or in fact very stiff, and it's the same with the gouge. So they're really not worth considering. If you're on a really tight budget and buying new tools, buy tools really as you need them. If you're interested in spindle work, you can start off with a spindle gouge, 1/2 inch spindle gouge. That's a 1 inch skew chisel, 25mm skew chisel, and a parting tool. And that, at the absolute basic, is all you need to turn a whole range of spindles. If you then want to go into turning end grain, which includes things like boxes, goblets, you'd need probably a round nose scraper and a square scraper. This is 3/4 inch, that's 1 inch. 20mm, 25mm. If your interest is more in facework and bowls, I'd start with the 1/2 inch spindle gouge, because if you had only one tool, that would be it. You can do almost anything with that tool. Then you'd need a 3/8 deep fluted bowl gouge and a bowl scraper, and a square end scraper is also very useful. And with these 4 tools you can do a whole range of small bowls, anything up to probably 8x3s, which is 200 by 75mm, and that gets you going. And there they all are, and you'll find a separate video on essential turning tools.